Meanwhile, other starts. Please, you can complete the quiz, which is there in the chat window. 1 or 2 minutes. I'll give you time, or else we'll start. Okay. So in this case, we have done with third unit. Next we move on to the fourth module. So what is there in the fourth module is functional dependency and normalization for relational database. That's what here, module 4, functional dependency and normalization for relational database. So what we are going to cover in this unit is, so we see informal design guidelines for relational database. Then we see about the semantics of a relational attributes, redundant information in tuples and update anomalies. We'll see about the null values in the tuples and the surplus tuples. Then we are seeing a functional dependencies, definition of functional dependency, inference rules for functional dependency, equivalence of a set of functional dependency, then minimal sets of functional dependency. Then normal form based on a primary key, normalization of a relation, practical use of normal forms, definition of keys and attributes participating in the keys, first normal form, second normal form, third normal form. Then we see about a general normal form definition for a multiple keys. Then BCNF, that is Boyce code normal form. We'll be seeing all these in this module 4. So first we see what is informal design. So there is no hard strict rule that you have to follow these steps. So the informal design guidelines for a relational database. So what is relational database design? The grouping of attributes to form good relational schema. Then 2 levels of relational schema, the logical or a user view level, the storage or a base relational level. That's what here informal design guidelines for relation. What is a relational database design? How do we design, and what are the things we should have? The grouping of attributes to form a good relational schema. Then 2 levels of relational schema, the logical or user view level, the storage or a base relational level. That's what here, the 2 levels of relational schema. Then design is concerned mainly with the base relation. What are the criteria to be a good relation? We'll see them. So in the informal guidelines, we'll be seeing about, first we discuss what are the informal guidelines for a good relation. Then we discuss about what is the functional dependencies and what are the normal forms. We see about all this first, second and third normal form. Then we see a PCNF. First we see what is the semantics of relational attributes. So first guideline 1, informally each tuple in the relation should represent one entity or relationship instance. So now you know about your drawing a ER diagrams. So when you draw a diagram, what it says, what is the guideline says to us is each relation, informally, each tuple in a relation should represent one entity or relationship instance. Example applies to individual relations and their attributes. That is what is a guideline 1. Then attributes of different entities, employee, department, projects should not be fixed in the same relation. That is what is semantics of relation attributes. That is a guideline 1. So what it says, informally, means without this thing, each tuple in the relation should represent one entity or relationship instance. Applies to individual relation and their attributes. Attributes of different entities, that is employees, department, projects, should be mixed in the same relation. Only foreign key should be used to refer to the other entities. So first one, what it says, attributes of different entities. Like suppose we have seen what is employees, what are the departments, what are the project, should not be mixed in the same relation. That is what is the attributes of different entities. Then only foreign key should be used to refer to other entities. So entity and relationship attributes should be kept apart as much as possible. So that's what here the first guideline says, semantics of the relation attributes. Informally, each tuple in a relation should represent one entity or relationship instance. Applies to individual relations and their attributes. The attributes of different entities, that is employees, department, projects, should not be mixed in the same relation. Only foreign keys should be used to refer to the other entities. Entity and relationship attributes should be kept apart as much as possible. Then bottom line, design a schema that can be explained easily relation by relation. The schematics of the attribute should be easy to interpret. Then let us see a simple, which we have already seen, the company relational database. So the simple version of the company relational database. So what is this? First, we can see what is the employee name, what is the table. The table name is employee. And in this, how many columns we have? Employee name, social security number. Social security number, we are calling it as a primary key. Birth date, address, and D number. So in the D number, what we are saying, D number is a FK. What is this FK stands for? FK is a foreign key. And what is this SSN? That is a primary key. Then the department name, D number, and department manager social security number. And the D number is what? Is a primary key, and the manager SSN is a foreign key. Then the department location, that is a D number and a D location. That is what these two mixed is called as a primary key, and D number is a foreign key from the department number. Then we have a project table. So in the project table, we have a project name, project number, that is a primary key, P location, and department number, that is a foreign key. Works on, that is a primary foreign keys of these, that is SSN and P number, then primary key, then hours. So that's what here, the simplified company relational database schema. So the redundant information in tuples and update anomalies. Suppose there are many redundant. There may be your USNs is 73 and your names is something. So if it is 2 or 3 times, then it is redundant values in the table. So mixing attributes of multiple entities may cause a problem. So suppose if you start mixing multiple entries, then it will be a problem. The information is stored redundantly, wasting storage. So problems with update anomalies, insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies, then modification anomalies. So this is what we see with the redundant information in tuples and update anomalies. What we see, mixing attributes of multiple entities. So now suppose department is one entity, that is one table. Then employee is another table. Then multiple entities. Now what we have done, only one primary key and one foreign key. Suppose if we use three columns in this employee as well as 3 columns in department, then it becomes very difficult for us to manage. That also we have to take care. The information is stored redundantly, wasting storage. So now in your class, suppose there are Deepikas, 2 Deepikas, and if I start entering 4 times, then it is a waste of storage. Then that also should be reduced. Then we have so many anomalies, insertion problem. So if I have given a character, then I have to enter character only. If I am giving number, the number only will be there. So these things, that is insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies, then modification anomalies, we see here. That is what is a redundant information in the tuples and the update anomalies. Then examples of an update anomaly, consider the relation. This is a relation. Let us see one example for the update anomaly. Example, in the employee project, we have an employee number and a project number. Along with this, we have an employee name, project name, number of hours. So then here what we have update anomaly is changing the name of the project, number P1 from billing to customer account may cause this update to be made for all 100 employees working on project P1. So what is there here? Changing the name of the project. Suppose you think that the project number P1 from billing, we want to change from billing to a customer account. May cause this update to be made for all 100 employees working on the project 1. Suppose let us assume that project 1, how many employees are working? Suppose let us assume that there are 100 employees working in this project, and we want to change the title from billing to customer account. Then what we have to do? We have to change in all 100 rows. because 100 employees are working for that project and that project name is a billing. Now, because we are changing that from billing to customer account, then all employees who are working for a project one should be changed to the customer account. This is updating it becomes difficult. So then in the same way, let us see two more anomalies, that is insert. So cannot insert a project unless an employee is assigned to it. So you may have 5 projects in the table, but in this 5 project, we may have an employee table also. So if you want to assign an employee, then there should be a project assigned to the employee. Then inversely, cannot insert an employee unless he or she is assigned to that particular project. That's what here, the vice versa. If you have a project free and employee is busy with some other project, then you cannot assign. In the same way, employee is not able to take the project, then this is what, that is what the both the cases, the reverse also, it will be a problem. So then we have a delete anomaly. When a project is deleted, it will result in deleting all employees who work on that project. Alternatively, if an employee is the sole employee on the project, deleting that employee could result in deleting the corresponding project. That's what a delete anomaly will say. When a project is deleted, it will result in deleting all the employees who work on that project. Alternatively, if an employee is the sole employee on the project, deleting that employee could result in deleting the corresponding project. So this is one more thing, that is deleting the a delete problem with the anomalies. So let us take two relation schema and their functional dependencies. Both suffer from update anomalies, that is employee department and employee project. So what is this employee department relation schema? Employee department, E name, SSN, birth date, address, D number, D name, and department manager social security number. So that's how here the employee and the department are linked. So in the same way, employee and project. So that's what here, employee and project. So here SSN, what we do, see how these are there. So now SSN, the two relation schema and their functional dependencies. So if I have, suppose let me say your USN. So if with your USN, so what is your USN? 1BY 19 MCA 01. So who is 01? We know it is Asta. So if I just know her USN number, I can take her first semester marks, second semester marks card, third semester marks card. So like this, we can fetch the details. And I can fetch what is the attendance for the first semester she has scored in all the subjects. So that is what then I can say USN is dependent, functionally dependent on other all things. The same way here, so the employee SSN is functionally dependent on name, birth date, address, as well as department number. And the department number is functionally dependent on name and manager social security number. So this is what is called as a functional dependency. In the same way, let us say functional dependency 1. So if social security employee and project, this was employee and department table, and here it is employee and project. So social security number, how many hours this particular employee is working for this particular project. So that's what here, these two are functionally dependent on hours. That is what functional dependency says to us. In the same way, SSN, if I know your USN, I can fetch your names. So that then I can say your USN is functionally dependent on your name. So you have in your class, there are 2 people who is having the same name, but still those 2 people also have their USN different. So then I can say each one in your class is having the unique SSN. That is functional dependency 1, functional dependency 2. That is FD1 hours, functional dependency. That is SSN is functionally dependent on name. So then project number. Project number, that is functionally dependent. Project number is functionally dependent on name and location. So this is how we call it as functionally dependent. So what is this functionally dependent? The two relational schemas and their functional dependency both suffer from update anomalies. That is the employee department, employee dependent, employee department relation schema and employee project relation schema. So that's what here, these are the two relation schemas suffering from update anomalies. So the same way you can see these are the values what we have inserted into the employee department and employee project. So in the employee department, these are the employee names, and this is a social security number. This is a birth date, address, and how many departments each employee is working. What is the department name and what is the manager social security number. Along with this, so employee project. So which employee with USN, that is SSN, is working for which project and how many hours he is working and what is the name of that particular employee. Then what is a product name, means that is what is the project he is working for. He is working for product X, and location is some location name. So like this, these are the social security numbers, these are the project numbers, these are the hours, how many hours he is worked, and these are the employee names, and these are the project names, and these are the project location. So that's what here. Examples for employee department and employee project. So that's what here, this is what is called as a how the data is being inserted and how the data is being inserted for employee department and employee project. So that's what is employee department and employee project is working for. Then we see next guidelines, guidelines to redundant information in the tuples and update anomalies. So the guideline to design a schema that does not suffer from the insertion, deletion and update anomalies. If there are any present, then note them so that application can be made to take them into the account. That's what is the guideline. Second guidelines, what is the guidelines is redundant information in the tuple and updating the anomalies. And the third one guideline is null values in the tuple. The relation should be designed such that their tuples will have as few null values as possible. Attributes that are null frequently could be placed in a separate relation with the primary keys. Reason for null: attribute not applicable or invalid, attribute value unknown, value unknown to exist but unavailable. So that's the reason when we use a null. So attribute not applicable, so invalid. I don't let me say, suppose if the kid is only 5 years and that 5 years kid will not have a PAN number, so then it is not required, then it is a invalid. So the same way, attribute value unknown. So now your how many students your 50 plus, then I don't have all your 50 plus phone numbers. As I'm taking DBMS, I don't know. So then I say I know, I don't know. Then value known to exist but unavailable. So value known to exist but unavailable. That's what here guideline 3 says to us. Then next is a surplus tuples. Bad design for a relational database may result in erroneous result for certain join operation. The lossless join, that is property, is used to guarantee meaningful results for join operation. So guidelines for the relation should be designed to satisfy the lossless join condition. No surplus tuples should be generated by doing a natural join of any relation. So what is the guideline 4 says to us? The relation should be designed to satisfy the lossless join condition. No surplus tuples should be generated by doing a natural join of any relation. What is surplus tuples? There are two important properties of decomposition. So why do we require to decompose? Suppose let me say I keep entering, suppose your first semester subjects, then second semester subject, next third semester. If I keep it in one single table, then it becomes very difficult for us to monitor. So then what we do, keep one table for one semester, how many subjects, what is the marks. Next semester, one more subject. Next semester, one more subject. What did we do? We divided based on the semester. First semester is this, second semester is this, third semester is this. So there are two important properties of decomposition. non-additive or losslessness of the corresponding join, then preservation of functional dependencies. So surplus tuples, there are two important properties of decomposition: non-additive or losslessness of the corresponding join, preservation of a functional dependency. Note that property A is extremely important and cannot be sacrificed. Then property B is less stringent and may be sacrificed. We'll see them. First, we see what is functional dependency. Functional dependencies are used to specify formal measure of a goodness of the relation design. Why do we use a functional dependence? Functional dependencies are used to specify formal measure of goodness of the relational design. So what do we do in the functional dependency? Functional dependency are used to specify formal measure of goodness of relation design. Okay, so let me say a functional dependency. What we do? You see, now BMS City College starts at 8:30. It goes till 4:30. So what is functional dependency here? All the students of third semester MCA should be available in the campus if it is offline, 8:30 to 4:30. So then what? If he is absent, then his attendance will be less. So that's how your dependency is. So functional dependencies are keys are used to define normal forms for relation. So what we do? Functional dependencies are keys are used to define normal forms for relation. FDs are constraints that are derived from the meaning and interrelationship of the data attributes. So what we see here, functional dependencies and keys are used to define normal forms for the relation. Then functional dependencies are constraints that are derived from the meaning and interrelationship of the data attributes. A set of attributes X functionally determine a set of attributes Y if the value of X determines a unique value for Y. So what we do here, a set of attributes X functionally determine a set of attribute Y if the value of X determines a unique value for Y. So what it says, what is a constraint? So now what is the student's constraint? They have to, if it is a third semester, they have to study DBMS, they have to study software testing, they have to study Python. So like this is the constraint. For third semester, how many subjects? So many subjects. How many labs? 3 labs. So like this, we have a constraint. And what is the relationship between all the data? So if I say 31 is which subject? DBMS. What is 32? 18 MCA 31, 18 MCA 32. What are the relationship? It says 31 means what? It is a third semester first subject. What is 32? It is third semester second subject. Like this, all these are there. So these are all, we are calling it as a data attribute. A set of attributes X functionally determine a set of attribute Y if the value of X determines a unique value for Y. So that's what here, a set of attributes X functionally determines a set of attribute Y if the value of X determines a unique value for Y. So that is what is a functional dependency. So functional dependency, X is functionally dependent on Y, holds if whenever two tuples have the same value for X, they must have the same value for Y. For any two tuples T1 and T2 in any relation instance R of R, if T1 X equals to T2 X, then T1 Y equals to T2 Y. So that's what here the functional dependency says to us. So what the functional dependency says to us? X belongs to X is functionally dependent on Y. Now, how do we say social security number is functionally dependent for the employees, employee name, employee birth date, all those details. That's what your X is primary key, is dependent on Y. Holds if whenever two tuples have the same value for X, they must have the same value for y. Suppose you say, if I say Asta is what? Asta's first row is what? Asta, her third semester 31 marks, 32 second mark, 33 next marks, like this we have. So one more I have Asta, then I may say again same values. So if the two values are same, then what we say, even her USN should also be same. That's what this means here. What is this? X is functionally dependent on Y holds in case whenever two tuples have the same value for X, then they must have the same value for Y. For example, two tuples T1 and T2, if in any relation instance R of R, if T1, what is T1? Row of X should always be equals to T2 of X, then if this is the case is true, then this should also be true. Means what? If Asta is having two rows, Asta, then her 31 marks, 31 marks, 32, 32. Like this, if I have two rows, then her USN should also be same. The same way, X is functionally dependent on Y in R specifies a constraint on all relation instance R of R. Written as X functionally dependent on Y can be displayed graphically on a relation schema as in figure. We'll see what is that is being done. So functional dependencies are derived from the real world constraints on the attributes. So let us see how the functional dependency constraints are. So social security number determines employee name. So if I know, that's what, if I know your USN, I can find out your name. Not only your name, what I can find out so many things. That is one. SSN, social security number of the employee, is functionally dependent on name. In turn, I can, if I know the name, I can find out the USN of all students of MCA. The same way, project number determines project name and location. Suppose if I know project number, if I know the project number means if I know MCA department, suppose MCA department number is 3. So if I know 3, I will say that where is MCA department and which floor the MCA department is. So if this is a 3, MCA department is 3, then where is department name is 3, where it is, we'll say that it is in a second floor BSN block. That's what here we can fetch. The project number determines project name and the location. Employee SSN and project number determines the hours per week that the employee works on the project. So that's what here, social security number and for which project he is working, and using these two, I can say these two are functionally dependent on how many hours a particular person is working. So these are the examples of functional dependency constraints. So we see some more and we define how the functional dependency says to us. Functional dependency constraints and functional dependency is a property of the attributes in the schema R. The constraint must hold on every relation instance R of R. The constraint must hold on every relation instance R of R. So then if K is key of R, then K functionally determines all attributes in R, since we never have two distinct tuples with T1 K equals to T2 K. So that's what here K stands for. If K is key of R, then K is functionally determine all attributes in R. So that is what examples of functional dependency of constraints. Inference rules of functional dependency. Given a set of functional dependencies F, we can infer additional functional dependencies that hold whenever the functional dependency in F holds. So what is this Armstrong rules or inference rule says to us? We know about, you would have studied in your maths, what is reflexive, what is transitivity. We'll see that what is inference rule 1 says to us, that is reflexive. What do we mean by reflexive? If y subset of x, then we say x is functionally dependent on y. So what if y is subset of x, means what? X is a very big set, in that you are taking 3 elements and making it as a y. Then what we say? X is y is a subset of x. If I say this, then I say x is functionally dependent on y. Then one more, one more is inference rule 2, that is augmentation. If x is functionally dependent on y, then xz, that is xz functionally dependent on yz. So we would have seen, if we add one more component to the existing one, then we say xz is functionally dependent on yz. So transitivity. So in your kindergarten, you would have seen about what is a transitivity. This is a inference rule 3. So if x tends to y and y tends to z, then we can say x tends to z. So x tends to y, then y tends to z, then x tends to z, then x tends to z. IR1, IR2, IR3 forms a sound and complete set of inference rule. That is what the inference rule says to us. Then inference rule of functional dependency. Some additional inference rules that are useful: decomposition, union, pseudo-transitivity. What is decomposition? So dividing. So now if I say x is functionally dependent on yz, then I can break it. That is x is functionally dependent on y, x is also functionally dependent on z. This is a rule 2 says to us. In the same way, union. What is, if x is functionally dependent on y and x is functionally dependent on z, then I can say x is functionally dependent on y and z. Then pseudo-transitivity. If x is tends to y and wy tends to z, then we say wx tends to z. The last 3 inference rules, as well as any other inference rules, can be deduced from IR1, IR2 and IR3. That is completeness property. That is inference rule 2. The inference rules for functional dependency 3. Closure of set F of functional dependency is set F plus of all functional dependencies that can be inferred from F. Closure of set of attributes X with respect to F is the set of X plus of all attributes that are functionally determined by X. Then X plus can be calculated by repeatedly applying IR1, IR2, IR3 using functional dependencies in F. So this is what is a inference 3 says to us. Then we move on, equivalence of sets of functional dependencies. So suppose 2 sets of functional dependencies F and G are equivalent. When do we say they are equal? When every functional dependency F can be inferred from G and every functional dependencies in G can be inferred from F. Then only we can say 2 sets are equivalent. Hence, F and G are equivalent if F plus equal to G plus. Then we say these 2 are functionally equivalent. Then definition, F covers G if every functional dependency in G can be inferred from F. That is, if G plus subset of F plus. F and G are equivalent if F covers G and G covers F. There is an algorithm for checking equivalency of set of functional dependencies. So that is what is a equivalence of set of functional dependency. Then when do we say minimal set of functional dependency? A set of functional dependency is minimal if it satisfies the following condition. Every dependency in F has a single attributes for its right hand side of the equation. We cannot remove any dependency from F and have a set of dependencies that is equivalent to F. We cannot replace any dependencies X functionally dependent on A in F with a dependency Y functionally dependent on A, where Y proper subset of X and still have a set of dependencies that is equivalent to F. So then we call it as it is a minimal set of functional dependency. Then minimal set of functional dependencies. Every set of functional dependencies has an equivalent minimal set. There can be several equivalent minimal set. There is no simple algorithm for computing a minimal set of functional dependencies that is equivalent to a set F of functional dependencies. To synthesize a set of relations, we assume that we start with a set of dependencies that is minimal set. Then we move on normal form based on primary keys. So what we see here in this next is normalization of a relation, then practical use of normal form, definitions of keys and attributes and participating keys, first normal form, second normal form, and a third normal form. So first we see what is normalization. So normalization, the process of decomposing unsatisfactory or a bad relation by breaking up their attributes into smaller relation. So why do we want normalization? So if my data is not properly stored, I want to make it a good relation. Then we use a normalization. Then even then we break it into a smaller thing. That is a smaller relation. Then the normal form, conditions using keys and functional dependencies of a relation to certify whether a relation schema is in a particular normal form. That is what is a normal form says to us. Condition using keys and functional dependencies of a relation to certify whether a relation schema is in a particular normal form or not. That is a normalization of the relation. So then we see how the second normal form, third normal form, and BCNF based on the keys and the functional dependencies of the relation. Then we see in the fourth normal form how the multi-valued attributes depends upon in the fourth normal form. In the fifth normal form, based on the keys, that is joint dependencies. Then additional properties may be needed to ensure that the good relation design, there is no loss of joint and dependencies preservation is there. So we'll just look back what we have covered today. We have started with functional dependency, and what we are covering in this unit is informal design guidelines for the relational database, then semantics of the relation attributes, redundant information in tuples and update anomalies, null value in a tuples, surplus tuples, functional dependencies, definition of functional dependency, inference rules for functional dependency, equivalence of sets of functional dependency, then minimal sets of functional dependency. Then we have a normal form based on a primary key, that is a normalization of a relation, practical use of normalization, definition of keys and attributes participating in keys, first normal form, second normal form, and this we are going to see in the fourth module. So then what is a relation? So what is a relational database design? The group of attributes to form a good relation schema. Two levels of relation schema, that is the logical user view level, the storage base relation level. So design is concerned mainly with the base relation. What are the criteria for a good base relation? So we'll be seeing with this. Along with that, we will discuss what are the guidelines for good relation, and we'll see what are the first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, and a BCNF. First one, what is a guideline 1 says to us? Semantics of the relational attributes. Guideline 1, informally, each tuple in a relation should present one entity or relationship instance. Applies to individual relationship and their attributes. So the attribute on different entities, that is employee, department, project, should not be mixed in the same relation. Only foreign keys should be used to refer to other entities. Entity and the relationship attribute should be kept apart as much as possible. So then bottom line, design a schema that can be explained easily relation by relation. The semantics of the attribute should be easy to interpret. Then we can see a simplified company relational database schema. So employee, department, sorry, employee, department location, project, works on. So then the employee table, we have a primary key and a foreign key. In the same way, department, we have a primary key, a D number, and in department location, we have a primary key, that is D number, and P location. Together, we are calling it as a primary key, whereas D number is being referred from a department table, so it is a foreign key. So in the same way, project is another table. So project name, project number, project location, and department number. Then in this case, we have a primary key number, P number, and what is this foreign key, that is a department number. Then works on, that is a foreign key, and these two are, that is social security number of an employee and project number. These are the two foreign keys from two different tables, and these two put together forms a primary key in this. That's what we were calling it as a super key in the relational algebra terms. And if these two are there, then only we'll be able to find out hours. And how to remove the redundant information in the tuples and update anomalies. Then mixing attributes of a multiple entities may cause problems. So information is stored redundantly, wasting storage. The problem with the update anomalies, insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies, modification. These are the things which we'll be seeing. So first one, update anomalies. So if there is one project called as P1, and for that project, if there are 100 people working, and if you want to change its title as from billing to customer account, then we have to update all the 100 employees project title. So it is very difficult. This is one with the update. This type of problem, we call it as an update anomaly. So then we have an insert anomaly. You cannot insert a project unless an employee is assigned to us. So suppose you have a project and it is not assigned to any employee, then there is no existence of the project. So that's in the same way reverse also. You cannot insert an employee unless he or she is assigned to a project. So that's what here, this is a insert anomaly. In the same way, delete anomaly, when a project is deleted, it will result in a deleting all employees who work on that project. So alternatively, if an employee is the sole employee on the project, deleting that employee could result in deleting the corresponding project. That is what is a delete anomaly. So then employee department. So then two relational schema and their functional dependencies both suffer from update anomalies. That is employee department relational schema and employee project relation schema. Employee department, so social security number, employee name, birth date. So social security number, if I know, I can fetch the name of a particular employee, birth date, I can fetch an address, I can fetch for which department he's working, and what is the department name, and what is a manager social security number. So then employee project, SSN and project number, the number of hours, employee name, project name, and the location. This is how employee and department table and employee and project table. These are the values what we store it in a employee department and employee project. So this is what the employee department, and these are the values which are stored in the employee project. And we have seen about the guidelines 2, guidelines 3, and we have seen how the surplus tuples can be removed, and we have seen about the guidelines 4. Then we have seen how the surplus tuples are being removed. Then what are the functional dependencies with respect to data value, how it is functionally dependent. Then we have taken some examples. social security number is completely dependent, functionally dependent on employee name. That functional dependency constraint, that is a property of the attribute in the schema R. Then we have seen reflexive augmentation and transitivity. Then we have seen about decomposition, union, and pseudo transitivity. Then inference rule, closure of this and closure. Then we have seen about a equivalence of a set of functional dependencies. Then we have seen about a minimal set of functional dependencies. Then we have seen about a minimal set of the functional dependencies. Then we have seen what are the normal forms based on the primary keys. So why do we use a normalization of a relation? What are the practical use of normal functions, and what is a definition and keys and the attribute pertaining to the keys? And we will be seeing about the first normal form, second normal form, and a third normal form. Then we will, what is normalization? When the relation is very bad and there are data which is very, it is not in a good proper way, then we call it as, then we use a normalization to make the relation a smaller one and to be a good one. So then what is normal form? A condition using keys and functional dependencies of the relation to certify whether a relation schema is in a particular normal form or not. Then we use a normal form. So we'll stop here, then we'll continue in the next class. I'll paste the quiz link in the chat window. You please complete the Asta, answer your attendance.
Present, ma'am.
Yesterday class you were absent, Asta.
Yes, ma'am.
Abhinav.
Present, ma'am.
Aishwarya.
Present, ma'am.
Ambarish.
Yes, ma'am.
Anu.
Present, ma'am.
Arbaz.
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Arjun.
Present, ma'am.
Ashok.
Present, ma'am.
Benita.
Present, ma'am.
Bhargavi.
Present, ma'am.
Bhavishya.
Present, ma'am.
Chaitra. Chaitra. Devmalai.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am. Ma'am.
Yeah,
Devmalu, present.
marking.
Okay, ma'am.
Diksha.
Present, ma'am.
Deepika.
Present, ma'am.
Deepika MB.
Present, ma'am.
Murli Krishna.
Present, ma'am.
Gangubai.
Present, ma'am.
Gangubai. Pudia.
Present, ma'am.
Harshit.
Present, ma'am.
Chunjar.
Present, ma'am.
Kavya.
Present, ma'am.
Kishore.
Present, ma'am.
Last two classes you were absent, Kishore. Lata.
Yes, ma'am.
Manisha.
Present, ma'am.
Manjunath.
Yes, ma'am.
Nayana.
Present, ma'am.
Nilanjan. Nishant.
Present, ma'am.
Pavitra.
Present, ma'am.
Maithili.
Present, ma'am.
Priyanka.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Pavan.
Present, ma'am.
Akash.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Rajeshwari.
Present, ma'am.
Rakesh.
Present, ma'am.
Ramya.
Present, ma'am.
Rashmi.
Present, ma'am.
Ravi.
Present, ma'am.
Rizwan.
Present, ma'am.
Vishal,
Present, ma'am.
Savita,
Yes, ma'am.
Shruti,
Present, ma'am.
Sneha,
Yes, ma'am.
Spurti,
Present, ma'am.
Srinidhi,
Present, ma'am.
Srinivas,
Present, ma'am.
Sunil,
Present, ma'am.
Vaishnavi,
Present, ma'am.
Vinny.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, complete the quiz completed. Hope so everyone has completed. So we'll see in the next class.